everyone, I'm Carrie. I am the lead animal care specialist here in our hooved animals section of Brookfield Zoo. And today I'm going to be chatting with you guys about Grevy zebras. So we're bringing the zoo to you in regards to Grevy zebras today. Behind me are our two female Grevy zebras. This is Neota in the front. She's a 4-year-old female, and behind her, hiding right now, is 10-year-old Maipa. We do also have another male here at the zoo who's 3 years old. He is Maipa's offspring, and his name is Haru. The Grevy zebras are the largest of all of the zebra species. They typically weigh between 700 and 900 pounds, so they are rather large. One of the easiest ways to tell them apart from other zebra species is their big rounded Mickey Mouse-like ears. They also have a more narrow stripe pattern than other zebra species, and their white bellies are a very good clear indicator. The other zebra species do not have those white bellies. This species of zebra is actually more closely related to donkeys and asses than they are to other zebra species. And if you're lucky enough, when you're here at the zoo, you will hear our zebras braying, and it'll be pretty clear how closely related they are to donkeys when they do that braying. This species of zebra is found in semi-arid areas of Kenya and Ethiopia. So they're found sort of like central to northern Kenya and just the very southern tip of Ethiopia. They are critically endangered. There's only about 2,000 to 3,000 animals in the wild at this point. And so they are being very closely managed by a number of conservation groups. One of the primary threats that they are facing is habitat loss and habitat degradation. Because they are in a semi-arid environment, those environments are very highly under stress due to drought at times. So one of the things that is happening with those local conservation groups is that they're working very closely with the local communities to ensure more sustainable ranching practices that are common in those areas, because these animals are in heavy competition with livestock in those areas. When there is drought, they do now supplement with food and water to help maintain these healthy populations of the very few animals that there are left in those areas. At one time, like in the late 70s, early 80s, zebras were hunted for their pelts, but these animals are now protected by the IUCN. So they're listed as CITES Appendix 1, which means that it is illegal to trade any of their animal parts. There is also a hunting ban in Kenya that is also protecting these animals. So these animals do rely very heavily on grasses for their food source. You can see that our girls right now are eating grass hay, so that makes up the bulk of their diet here at the zoo. They each eat about 6 to 7 pounds of grass hay per day. They also get a concentrated grain product that has all of the vitamins and minerals that they need, and they also really enjoy things like carrots or apples for a special treat. Are there questions that are coming through?
Yeah. So how long do they live?
In their native habitats, it's typical for zebras to live to like their early 20s, but in human care, it's not uncommon for them to reach mid-20s to even early 30s.
Can you tell them apart by their stripes?
Great question. Yes, we do identify all of our zebras by their stripe pattern. And also, one of the easier ways to tell these girls apart is that Nyota is taller than Maipa, which it's not making it any easier to see Maipa right now. But they do all have a unique stripe pattern, just like people's fingerprints. So one of the ways that I can tell Nyota from Maipa is that on her right cheek there, Nyota has a little spot right underneath her eye. So that's one of the defining characteristics that I look for when I'm telling these girls apart. It's also one of the ways that researchers identify animals out in the wild, and they've now since developed some really cool computer programs that sort of scan the stripe pattern just like, you know, our forensics people would scan for fingerprints, and it helps us to identify animals and get a more accurate census on those animals. There's a lot of theories about why zebras have stripes. And like I said, the Grevy zebras are more closely related to donkeys than they are to other zebras. So it's somewhat just coincidental that they both have stripes. So one of the theories behind the striped pattern is that it helps protect the more vulnerable members of the herd. These are herd animals, so they do stick closely together in numbers of up to about 20 animals at a time. And so it makes it a little bit harder for predators to zero out a more vulnerable individual. So predators typically like to single out really young animals and animals that are older or showing signs of illness. So when they all group together in a herd, that striped pattern helps make it difficult for the predator to zero out any one individual. Another running theory right now is that that stripe pattern helps to deter flies. So I don't know how they research this, but there's some evidence that zebras are less vulnerable to flies than some other species, and one of the theories is because of that stripe pattern.
How much do they weigh?
Grevy zebras are the largest of all of the wild equids, and so they range from about 700 to 900 pounds.
How many species of zebra are there?
That's sort of widely debated within the scientific community. Grevy zebras are for sure distinct from the other zebra species. As far as the other zebra species are concerned, generally we would group them into plain zebras and mountain zebras, but there's a lot of dispute about from there how many distinct species there are, and part of that is based on geographic location, and part of that is based on genetics. So it gets a little bit tricky to distinguish, you know, species from subspecies.
How long is their gestation period?
Their gestation is roughly 13 months, so it's a pretty long gestation, and they typically only have one foal at a time. Twins are very rare.
At what age can the babies begin to walk?
They walk immediately. Within 6 minutes of birth, they can stand up, and within 45 minutes of birth, they typically are running. And that is because they are a prey species. They have to get up and moving pretty quickly after birth in order to stay safe. So this is a species that we would term a follower species. So they are up and following their mother, you know, right from birth.
Do they get any type of training?
They do get training. We do some husbandry training with them. They're all trained to step up onto a scale. And then we do further training with various individuals based sort of, you know, on their relationship with certain keepers and also our needs for them. So they are all trained to approach the perimeter and take produce from our hands, and that allows us to get a good look at them and give them a thorough visual exam each day. We get a nice good look at their coat condition in their eyes and their ears and their hooves, so we can assess their health. We do also have some individuals that will do different body presentation techniques. So Haru, for example, will turn his body so that we can access his shoulder and his rump, and that's a way that we could offer vaccinations for him as an individual. And hopefully we will get there with the females. We just haven't gotten there yet.
How fast can they run?
They do rely on their speed to avoid predators. So they can run like 40 miles per hour. And again, they do stick into a tight herd when they're running. So they will adjust their speed to keep the herd together. So they really only run as fast as their slowest member so that they can stick together to stay safe.
Are they related to horses?
They are more closely related to donkeys than they are to horses, but all of those animals fall under that family Equidae. So they are related, but more closely related to donkeys.
So does that mean that they have similar hooves to horses?
Yeah, they do have similar hooves. So these are odd-toed ungulates is how we would term them. So they bear all of their weight on just one toe on each of their legs. That hoof is actually a modified toe.
What do they eat besides hay?
Here in the zoo, in addition to hay, they also get a grain product, and they get various produce for treats. In the summertime, we also give them browse to eat. They do enjoy browse that we have supplied here at the zoo. In the wild, though, they would pretty much exclusively eat just grasses. If there's a drought and food is scarce, they will also choose to eat leaves and stuff off of bushes and trees, but their primary source of food is grass.
Can you remind us what their names are and how old they are?
So in the front here, as we're looking at them, is Miyota, who is 4 years old. And behind her is Maipa, who is 10. These are both females. And then here at the zoo, we also do have Haru, who is a 3-year-old male. The way that their social structure is designed, quite often the males will maintain a solitary lifestyle, and they'll maintain very large territories. They maintain the largest territories of any other herbivore, and the male can defend a territory of up to 10 square kilometers, which is quite a large space. So those more dominant males will have territories that have good resources, so access to water and access to good forage, and then some of the less dominant animals will still maintain a territory, but the resources may not be as desirable for females. So then the females will form sort of these very loose social structures. They don't maintain very tight social bonds, but they do stay together in a group for safety. So aside from adult females that have foals, they don't maintain very close social bonds.
Do they have any favorite treats?
Their favorite treats are carrots. And if we're working on like a really special new training project, and we want to give them something super special, we'll give them apples as well.
Where can you find them here at Brookfield Zoo?
Here at Brookfield Zoo, you can find them on the north end of the zoo in our hooved animal section. So as you come through the north gate, you would turn to your right and head west, and that is where you'll find the zebras.
Are they white with black stripes or black with white stripes?
We always get that question here at the zoo. My opinion is that Grevy zebras, I would term them to be white with black stripes, just because with their white belly, they have more white covering their body than black. But with some of the other zebra species, it would be too hard to tell.
Is their skin the same color as their stripes, or are the stripes only in their fur?
The stripes are only in their fur. Their skin underneath is a black color. It's a very darkly pigmented skin color. But that stripe pattern does show up even in utero from a very young age.
What threats do they face in the wild?
Their primary threat in the wild is habitat loss and degradation. They compete a lot with local livestock for resources, so that's their biggest threat right now. They do also get hunted by predators such as lions and spotted hyenas primarily. They're rather large animals, so it's difficult for other smaller carnivores to take them down.
How do they like our cold Chicago winters?
They actually are surprisingly cold tolerant for where they are found in their native habitats. They can be outside and be perfectly well with temperatures below freezing, but we do always offer them access to a heated barn if it's below freezing temperatures, so that they have the choice to go in and warm up if they're feeling cold. If it's below 20 degrees, we do lock them into that heated area, just so we don't run into things like frostbite. But considering where they're from, they're incredibly cold tolerant.
How long does it take them to eat?
Well, given the choice, they would eat all day. We do have to limit their diet so that they don't get fat. Like, left to their own devices, they would get quite fat if they had an unlimited food source. So they do get a measured diet here at the zoo, and that is to maintain their optimal weight. So we feed them multiple times throughout the day to space that out for them. So right now I just gave them their morning hay ration, and that should last them for several hours, and then later in the afternoon they'll get their evening ration, and that will last them through the evening, and then they'll rest overnight.
What color are their eyes?
Their eyes are a dark brown color.
Do they sleep standing up?
They do spend most of their time standing up. We do find that on really nice, mild weather days, we will find them lying down, and that is totally normal. A lot of people have the assumption that if a horse or a zebra is lying down, that means that they're ill, and that's not really true. It basically means that they're comfortable, like they don't feel any threats, and they're just taking a nice rest. They do stand up most of the time though, and that is just due to their nature as a prey animal, so they're always at the ready if they need to get away quickly. So thank you all so much for joining us, for bringing the zoo to you today. We're very happy to tell you more about our Grevy zebras. We truly appreciate your continued support, and we're really looking forward to seeing you all back here at the zoo soon.